Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today is Thursday, and honestly, it is a weirdly gloomy day outside, which feels entirely appropriate given the absolute heavy dark mess we need to talk about today. Grab a huge cup of coffee, or maybe something stronger, because we have a massive amount of ground to cover and I am still reeling from what just happened on screen. So let's just dive right into it. We all knew Ethan Lovett was coming back to Port Charles. The spoilers have been teasing his April 17 return for weeks now. We knew he was going to check in with Christina, maybe spark some old feelings. We knew he was going to cross paths with Tracy Quartermain and remind her of Luke, but nothing. And, I mean, absolutely nothing prepared any of us for the actual scene of his arrival at the Corinthos mansion. It was just heavy. So incredibly heavy. I've been covering this show for years, and sometimes you just get used to the usual rhythm of a character returning right. They show up at Charlie's pub, they order a drink, they bump into an ex, they smile. But not this time. This was different. This was dark. This was a completely different show for a few minutes. Let's set the scene properly because the atmosphere was everything. The Corinthos mansion was dimly lit, feeling almost claustrophobic. Sonny is already dealing with a million things on his plate right now. Justine Turner is breathing down his neck, giving him scary warnings that Jen Sidwell's vendetta is completely out of control. Sidwell is literally blaming Sonny for Jordan Ashford's horrific car crash now, which is just insane. So Sonny is already stressed, pacing around trying to figure out his next move, and then there's a knock at the door, and it's Ethan. But you guys, it barely even looked like Ethan at first. I actually had to squint at my television screen to make sure it was him. But let's just pause for a second and really look at Ethan's face in this scene. I mean, actually look at it. The makeup department deserves an award, honestly, because he looked absolutely destroyed. Haggard doesn't even begin to cover it. His eyes were so deeply sunken into his skull, surrounded by these dark, bruised shadows that made him look like he hasn't slept in a month. And maybe he hasn't. The sheer exhaustion radiating off him was palpable. But it wasn't just physical tiredness. It was this deep, soul-crushing weariness mixed with a burning, toxic level of hatred. The charming, witty con man we all remember, the guy who used to smirk his way out of trouble and charm the socks off everyone in Port Charles, gone. Just completely gone. Dead and buried. Replaced by this hollow shell of a man who was running on absolutely nothing but pure vengeance. It was honestly hard to watch. Like, genuinely uncomfortable to sit there and witness this character we've known for so long just completely shatter on screen. And then he drops the bomb. The absolute massive, world-shattering bomb. He stands there in Sonny's living room, barely holding his posture together, and confesses that Holly Sutton is dead. Yes, you heard me right. Holly Sutton. Dead. I literally paused the episode and just stared at the wall for a good 5 minutes. Are you kidding me? The writers actually went there. Let me just rant for a second, okay? Because maybe I am being way too harsh here. But killing off a legacy character like Holly in a failed escape attempt from Jen Sidwell's captivity off screen, what were they thinking? Who actually believes this is going to sit well with the longtime fans? I mean, I know Sidwell is the big bad villain right now, and they need to establish how dangerous he is. But this feels like a massive step too far. Holly's an icon. She is Luke Spencer's great love. And she dies trying to run from Sidwell's goons in some undisclosed location. It makes my blood boil just typing this out. It feels like such a disservice to her history. But okay, let me pull myself back on track here. Because despite my anger at the plot choice, the acting in this scene was phenomenal. I have to give credit where credit is due. Ethan's voice was cracking the entire time, but there were no tears. Just this dry, empty grief that has completely solidified into pure, unadulterated rage. He told Sonny exactly how it happened, how she tried to escape, how Sidwell had her locked up, and she made a desperate run for it, and it all went horribly, tragically wrong. You could literally see Ethan replaying the nightmare in his head while he was talking. The trauma was just written all over his face. And Sonny's reaction, honestly, Maurice Bernard nailed it. Sonny was completely shocked. Just bang wong, stunned to his absolute core. Because Holly isn't just some random casualty in a mob war. She is a huge part of their shared history. She's family in that weird, twisted Port Charles way. Sonny just stood there, processing the fact that Luke's great love is permanently gone. And you could see the exact moment in Sonny's eyes when he realized that the Jen Sidwell situation has officially crossed a massive line. Up until this exact moment, Sidwell was a business problem. A very dangerous mob problem, sure. The guy is a grieving father who mistakenly thinks Sonny killed Marco Rios. We all know Ross Cullum actually stabbed Marco. But Sidwell is blind with his own grief and rage. He's blaming Sonny for everything under the sun, even the crash on Route 91. But this killing Holly Sutton, this isn't business anymore. This isn't just territory or misunderstandings. This is a blood debt. And Sonny Corinthos knows exactly what a blood debt means in his world. It means someone has to die. So Ethan doesn't just come to the mansion to cry on Sonny's shoulder. No, that would be way too easy. And Ethan is way past crying. Ethan looks Sonny dead in the eye and swears that he is going to make Sidwell pay with blood. He vows to take Sidwell's life for what he did to his mother. And honestly, I am completely rooting for him. I know I shouldn't root for murder on a soap opera, but let's be real. Sidwell has been terrorizing the entire town for months. He's got Britt Westbourne by the throat. He's manipulating Willow Kane into doing his dirty work. He's just an absolute menace. Somebody needs to take him down. But here is where the scene gets really messy and complicated. Ethan asks Sonny for help, but he doesn't want Sonny's men. He doesn't want to start a full-scale mob war with soldiers shooting up the streets. He wants weapons. He wants heavy artillery. And he wants Sonny's top-secret, highly classified intel on Sidwell's movements. Ethan wants to go on a solo assassination mission. A one-man suicide squad to take down the most dangerous, ruthless man currently breathing in Port Charles. I mean, Ethan, buddy, I love you, I really do, but you are not Jason Morgan. You are a grifter, a charmer, a guy who talks his way out of problems. You do not have the tactical WSB training to take down a heavily guarded guy like Sidwell completely alone. But Grief does crazy things to people, right? He's clearly not thinking straight. He just wants a gun, a target, and a chance to pull the trigger. And he is standing in the living room of the biggest mob boss on the East Coast, asking for the tools to do it, which puts Sonny in the most impossible, agonizing position ever. Sonny is completely torn. On one hand, he deeply understands the need for vengeance. Nobody understands the concept of blood for blood better than Sonny Corinthos, and he feels like he owes it to Luke's memory to help his kid get justice. But on the other hand, giving Ethan a weapon and sending him after Sidwell is basically signing Ethan's death warrant. Sonny knows Ethan isn't a trained killer. And Sonny knows the fallout. If Ethan misses, Sidwell will slaughter him without a second thought. If Ethan actually succeeds, Sidwell's entire organization will descend on Port Charles and turn the city into an absolute war zone. It would be a pointless, massive bloodbath. And Sonny is already trying so hard to prevent a bloodbath. He is actively trying to keep the peace, while Justine Turner is warning him that he might not even survive the week. Seriously, think about the irony here for a second. Just a few days ago, Danny Morgan came to Sonny, begging to basically join the mob so he could take down Sidwell and get justice for Jason. And Sonny turned Danny down flat. He told him no. He told him to stay out of it. Rick Lansing even had to go to Alexis's house to warn her to keep Danny on a tight leash. Sonny is desperately trying to keep the kids out of the crossfire. He doesn't want the next generation throwing their lives away on mob vengeance. And now Ethan shows up asking for the exact same thing. But Ethan isn't a reckless teenager like Danny. Ethan is a grown man who feels like he has absolutely nothing left to lose. How is Sonny supposed to say no to that? How do you look a grieving son in the eye, a son of your dead best friend, and say, sorry? I can't give you a gun to kill the man who murdered your mother. It is agonizing to watch Sonny process this. You could see the gears turning in his head, trying to find a way out of this trap. I found myself actually yelling at the screen, "Don't do it, Sonny. Don't give him the gun." But then the camera cuts back to Ethan's face, and you see that broken, hateful stare, and you think, maybe he should just do it. Maybe Sidwell just needs to be taken out once and for all. I am so conflicted, you guys. The writers really have me spinning in circles with this storyline. And let's zoom out for a second and think about the massive ripple effects of this confession. What is Tracy Quartermain going to do when she finds out? We know Ethan is supposed to catch up with Tracy soon, and she tells him he reminds her of Luke. If Tracy finds out Holly is dead, she might just fund Ethan's assassination mission herself. Tracy has the money, the resources, and the absolute ruthlessness to want Sidwell dead too. And what about Christina? The spoiler said Ethan's return catches her completely off guard and might spark old feelings. She was literally just talking to Jacinda Bracken about her history with Ethan and how protective he used to be when she was dealing with Kiefer Bauer. Well, the protector is back, but he's completely broken. Is Christina going to try to save his soul? Is she going to get caught in the crossfire? With Sidwell already wanting to punish Sonny, Christina is walking collateral damage waiting to happen if Ethan starts a war. Sometimes I wonder if the writers actually planned these thematic parallels or if they just happened by accident. You have Danny wanting revenge for Jason. You have Ethan wanting revenge for Holly. You have Sidwell wanting revenge for Marco. It's just a giant, messy, endless circle of vengeance, and nobody's gonna win. Everyone is just gonna end up dead or rotting in a cell at Steinmauer. Okay, let me pull myself back on track here again. I'm rambling. But that's what this show does to me lately. I sit down to watch a quick episode, and suddenly I'm deep into the psychological trauma of a legacy character's son. The tension in that room between Sonny and Ethan was just palpable. The way Sonny hesitated. The way he looked at the floor, rubbing his jaw, trying to figure out a way to protect his friend's son without starting World War III in the streets of Port Charles. I honestly don't know what Sonny's going to decide. If he gives Ethan the intel and the weapons, he's an accessory to whatever disaster happens next. If he refuses, Ethan is just going to go rogue. He's going to get himself killed trying to break into Sidwell's compound with zero backup and zero plan. There's no good outcome here. None. Just varying degrees of tragedy. And part of me, okay, a very small, desperate, hopeful part of me is still holding out hope that maybe, just maybe, Holly isn't actually dead. I mean, come on, it's a soap opera. If there's no body on screen, there's no death, right? Maybe Sidwell faked her death to break Ethan's spirit. Maybe she's still locked in a basement somewhere. I know I'm probably just in deep denial because I absolutely refuse to accept that they killed her off like that. But you never know. We've seen crazier things happen. But Ethan believes it. That's the important part for this specific storyline. Ethan believes she's dead. And his grief is 100% real. The trajectory of his character has completely changed in a single, devastating episode. He's no longer the fun addition to the canvas who's going to flirt his way through town. He's a dark, brooding force of nature heading straight for a violent collision with Jen Sidwell. So yeah, that's where we are right now. I am exhausted. My brain hurts from analyzing this. I need a nap, but I know I'm just going to be sitting here refreshing the spoiler pages to see what happens on tomorrow's episode. What do you guys think? Is Sonny going to arm Ethan? Is Holly really gone forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because I need to know I'm not the only one losing my mind over this incredibly intense episode.